I'm Deanna Wilsey with United Way Suncoast, and I'm here with Emery Ivory, area president in the Tampa Bay area for United Way Suncoast. And we wanted to take a moment to just share some information for many of you who are wondering about what the need is following Irma here in the Tampa Bay and Manatee, Sarasota area. So Emery, it's been a little over a week since Irma struck the state of Florida. Now, what have you seen and what have you heard from our nonprofit partners?
Yeah, part of what we are hearing is, a need for more food. That a lot of individuals in our community who maybe spent some of their, last resources on water or preparing for buying supplies for the hurricane. And now that the hurricane is over, they're running short. So many of our pantries are running short of food. We are hearing from a lot of agencies about individuals' homes who may have been damaged during the storm and need some extra support in maybe repairing fences or roofs or maybe minor leaks. These are the kind of challenges that that we need to take care of soon, because they could grow into much bigger problems down the road. Many of our agencies are trying to get to those communities that are struggling, like down in the Waimama area in Leoman, where folks were evacuated and now they're coming back to a lot of debris in their yards. So there's some volunteer forces that are getting together to try to clean that up. And then we've even seen and heard from agencies who report that families' homes were vandalized during the storm. And so, a lot of their belongings were stolen, and including food. And so there's a challenge with trying to replace some of that. So still a lot of need, and I think that at least at this point we probably are at like maybe the first phase of meeting the need, but we know that there's still a lot of folks out there that we need to get to, folks who need help, maybe who are trying to solve the issue on their own, but we know that later down the line we'll hear from them in some other ways.
So for people that are looking for a way to help, you talked about people needing food and volunteering. Is the best thing people can do right now to do a food drive at the office or a water drive at the office? What's the best way we can help our neighbors that need it right this minute?
Yeah, really, honestly, the best way is to contribute money. That is really allows us to work with a lot of agencies to get the kind of supplies, the kind of equipment to build capacity so that we can better serve the community. Secondly, I think that there's always a need for those types of donations, but we really need to kind of reach out, call organizations like ours that can really help figure out what kind of supplies are really needed at that time. Mm-hmm. So it could be in the beginning that, there was a need for water. We may be at a place now where there's a different need, maybe baby supplies, those kinds of needs. Maybe we have enough water at this point. So I think that before folks go out and bring donations, it's really important to find out what the need is, at any given time.
And that's a great point, because the needs are different by geography as
Right.
well as by the populations that are being served. So
Right.
it sounds like what you're saying too is that when the agencies are able to have financial resources, they can get what's needed really fast to the people who need it most.
Right. And even, and I'll use the Leoman area as an example. There are volunteers and organizations that are working to get the water and some of the food. But there's, because it's an area that has a large number of trailer homes, then there's a lot of repairs that need to be done. So the need there, the donated needs there, are really around materials to repair some of the homes in that area. But again, and if folks want to give us a call, we can always reach out, figure out where the need is and what kind of donations are needed, so that people can invest in those donations that are really needed, again, at that given point.
Yeah, and we were talking this morning, we reached out and we were speaking with one of our colleagues down in the Florida Keys, and she's getting ready to go back down to the Keys, and she was saying her greatest need right now is shovels and trash bins and respirators, that, water and food is being handled by other folks, but, she really needed these other really specific supplies.
Right.
So same thing that, like what you're saying here locally. How would you describe how Irma is impacting? I mean, you mentioned, some debris and some vandalism that, not everyone had storm damage in the traditional sense. What are some of the other impacts Irma is having on people in our community?
Well, we released the Alice report, and that report really looks at those families in our community who are working hard but struggling to meet the basic needs. Alice had asset limited, income constrained, employed. And so these are folks who, every day are struggling to make ends meet, but now have this additional challenge of the Irma, right? And so I think that the biggest challenge there is folks who, again, maybe who have utilized some of their resources maybe to leave town because they had to evacuate. Meaning that they had to spend extra gas money to get out of town. They maybe had some extra food expenses. So now they're coming back, and maybe they were their place of employment was closed for a couple of days, which means they've lost income.
Paychecks, sure.
Right? So there's this short-term need that we need to take care of with those families, which is making sure that they have the food and clothing. But then there's a long-term need that we have, which is making sure that that they don't get to a place where they take out a loan that may be difficult to pay back down the road, or they decide not to pay one bill in order to put food on the table, and that their issue starts to get more and more out of control. Down the road, we'll see those folks, and they're in financial crisis. So, so the impact on those families, again, I think that we've seen the first round of folks who are struggling, and we're trying to meet some of those short-term needs. But longer term, we'll see even more folks, I think, reaching out to some of our partner agencies for all kinds of challenges that they are having, maybe 2-3 months down the road, which are directly related to Irma.
Yeah, I think about some of my friends. I was actually talking to a friend who's a hairdresser, and his shop was closed for a week because of the power outages, and no one in the shop could work. So that's a week with no paycheck and nothing that they could do about it. But that's going to be, imagine if I, had to cut my monthly income in a quarter, take a quarter out.
Yeah.
Then I have to worry about how am I going to pay my rent, how am I going to pay for my car, put groceries on the table. It snowballs. And even if you make it for a month and you stretch, then it just continues to be a problem. There's no reserves for a lot of the Alice families.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, this is the time that we are taking care of those short-term needs, but we want to try to get to those folks. And do some case management and work with them so that their lives really don't spiral out of control. Yeah. It's easier to kind of help those folks now than to wait till that problem gets bigger down the road.
Well, that's a great segue. One of the interesting things with United Way is you often, we're behind the scenes, kind of, helping make those things possible. So what are some examples of what United Way has been doing in the short term with some of the immediate relief, and then how they can expect to see us show up longer term to help the families in our community?
Well, thanks to the support of our donors, we were able to have some resources that allowed us to immediately support some of our agency efforts, like right shortly after the storm. So there were, another issue is schools were closed. Some parents had to work. And so where do you take your kids? Many of our partner agencies, like the YMCAs, the Boys and Girls Clubs, opened up their facilities to allow kids to come there during the day, to allow their parents to work. What this also meant, though, was that they had to utilize resources that they had not planned or budgeted for.
Right.
So we were able to go in and support to make sure that they had the resources to keep the doors open, to serve even more kids while the schools were closed. And then we were able to contribute $250,000 to the Irma Disaster Relief Fund, along with several other partners, to make sure that we were able to respond to needs of our partner agencies who are serving the community very quickly.
So Emma, you mentioned that there's a fund that we contributed about $250,000 to for Irma relief, and I think that the partners, that's a really interesting fund because it's something we haven't seen before in this community. As I recall, it's United Way Suncoast, and then the United Ways in Pasco County, Hernando County, Citrus County, as well as the Community Foundation of Tampa Bay, Pinellas County Community Foundation, and Foundation for Healthy St. Pete.
Right.
What does it mean when we come together as funders and as the nonprofit community to serve the region as a whole?
So collectively, we, through those partners, have raised over $1.2 million. We are collaborating. We are having conversations on a regular basis about the need and how we can best meet that need. We are working together to develop the strategy, both short and long term, for how we help families recover from Hurricane Irma. So, for example, one of the first funding decisions that we made, because collectively we were hearing about the need for food, was to provide a grant to Feeding America. Feeding America was of $100,000. Feeding America was able to really leverage those dollars using their corporate contacts and through working through their national office to get several trailer loads of food down to our area. And with those dollars, they were also able to set up distribution site in a number of different neighborhoods, including neighborhoods that were really, really struggling, like the Waimama neighborhood down in South Hillsborough County. We have several meetings, conference calls a week. We are actually taking requests from agencies. We're reviewing those requests and making pretty quick decisions so that we can get these dollars out to agencies so that they can better serve folks in need. So that I think is the benefit and the advantage of working together, as a community to meet the needs of folks after the hurricane.
Living united in kind of a different way.
Yeah, living united.
So, when I'm often asked, what can I do to help, from the community, from people that I meet, from neighbors, what would be your advice to tell people? I think you mentioned make a contribution, but how can people help?
Yeah, contributions now are really, really important. We so appreciate those donations. We just also want folks to keep in mind that the reason so many of our agencies are ready to respond is because of the donations that we receive on a year-round basis that we are then able to build
Through the workplace campaigns.
Right. So we're able to build capacity so that agencies can in fact be ready to respond in the event of an emergency. So what we don't want to do is to forget, that these are the agencies that year-round are taking care of people in need, that year-round are building and getting ready for disasters, and like the one that we've just had here. So we really need to make sure that there's a balance in, how we support through donations for this disaster, this immediate crisis, but then how do we also make sure that all of our agencies have the capacity and that we have this sort of social service infrastructure that's always ready and always prepared to help people.
And when I think about where people can call when they need help, that's kind of a great example of the capacity building, because 211 is the phone helpline. That is something that United Ways across our region, really across the U.S.,
Right.
fund. It's a huge investment for us, and it's the place where people can call if they need help.
Right.
So if somebody if they are struggling financially or facing a need, aren't sure where to turn, they can call 211 anytime. How does that work?
Yeah, they can call 211, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They are in place to help people in
And there's
need.
trained professionals
There's trained
there?
professionals, case managers that also have access to resources to help families in need. And these are organizations that, to your point, are working on a year-round basis.
Terrific. And if somebody wants to volunteer, where can they go to see what volunteer opportunities may be available?
They can go to the United Way Suncoast website, the hands-on Suncoast website, and there's a list of all kinds of volunteer opportunities where people can get involved.
Terrific. Well, thank you, Emery.
Thank you.
If you're looking for more information, you can visit uwsuncoast.org and see what United Way is doing on your behalf. You can also go to volunteersuncoast.org, and you can go to the disaster tab there and see all the Irma-related volunteer opportunities, or browse through hundreds of other volunteer opportunities. In fact, Day of Caring is coming up on October 12th, and is the largest one-day volunteer activity in our region. So thanks so much for your time, and thanks so much for your support, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you.